Hello everyone. In today's session, I'm going to discuss 15 very important give reasons from Macbeth Act 1 Scene 2. This is a video on request. Some of the questions are there in the workbooks and many of these questions are framed by me so that you can have a good and thorough revision. King Duncan sentenced the Thane of Cawdor to death because King Duncan ने Thane of Cawdor को death sentence दिया था. क्यों? What is the specific reason? Just write one single reason and include all keywords and expressions. Because having assisted the King of Norway, the latter proved himself to be a disloyal traitor. Disloyal traitor. This expression must be there in your reason. And the former was angry with him. Thane of Cawdor एक दगाबाज था. उसने क्या किया था? किंग डंकन के साथ विश्वासघात किया था. उसने किंग ऑफ नॉर्वे को हेल्प किया था और इसी वजह से किंग डंकन बहुत गुस्से में थे और वो थेन ऑफ कॉडर को पनिश करना चाहते थे. इसीलिए उन्होंने थेन ऑफ कॉडर को डेथ सेंटेंस दिया था. दिस इज द स्पेसिफिक रीजन. सो यू मस्ट इंक्लूड ही असिस्टेड द किंग ऑफ नॉर्वे, proved himself to be a disloyal traitor, and King Duncan was angry with him. So these three aspects must be there in your reason. 1, 2, 3. The surgeon described that the outcome of the battle as doubtful it stood because when he left the battlefield, युद्ध खत्म होने से पहले ही सर्जियन बैटलफील्ड को वो छोड़ के आ गए थे. मगर छोड़ने से पहले उन्होंने क्या देखा था? Neither army had the advantage of the other. वो जो मुकाबला था वो टक्कर का था, वो बराबरी का था. कोई आर्मी, कोई साइड किसी और से ऊपर नहीं था. दोनों ही एक समान एक दूसरे के साथ लड़ाई में व्यस्त थे. And the troops were fighting at close quarters. And they were feeling exhausted and they were tired. So what are the key words and expressions here? Neither army had the advantage of the other. Nobody had the upper hand. And the troops were fighting at close quarters. And as a result of this, they were feeling exhausted. They were feeling tired. And therefore, the sergeant described that the outcome of the battle as doubtful it stood. It was still unsettled, undecided as to which side would win. The third question now. The bleeding man should be able to tell the latest position of the battle because, according to Duncan, the condition of the bleeding captain suggests that he is coming from the battlefield and hence will be able to provide first-hand information. ये सर्जियंट, ये कैप्टन बैटलफील्ड से आया है, इसीलिए इसे पता है क्या हो रहा है बैटल में. He has first-hand information and that is why, according to Duncan, King Duncan, the bleeding man, should be able to tell the latest development of the battle. Malcolm greets the wounded soldier and calls him brave friend because this is important. Because the former, again, who is former? Malcolm. The person that I have mentioned in the beginning is referred to as former. And the person whom I have referred after the first person has been addressed, he is the latter. So former and latter. Malcolm greets a wounded soldier and calls him brave friend because the former is grateful to the latter. Malcolm grateful hai. Why? What did the wounded soldier do for him? As he is the sergeant, like a faithful and brave soldier, fought to save Malcolm from being taken a prisoner. अगर ये sergeant ना होते तो आज शायद Malcolm prisoner होते. And who saved him from being taken a prisoner? It was this sergeant. He is the person, he is the sergeant who, like a faithful and brave soldier, fought to save him from being taken a prisoner. So that is why he is grateful to him. Next, MacDonald is worthy to be a rebel because another important question, because the vices of human nature breed and swarm upon him like vermin. He is ruthless, he is merciless, and he has all the vices of human nature. जितने भी बुरे qualities है वो सब मैकडोनाल्ड में कूट कूट के भरे हैं. Next, fortune was merely like a rebel's whore, because even though favored by fortune, MacDonald was unable to stand against Macbeth. पहले तो मैकडोनाल्ड को देख के लग रहा था वो बहुत पावरफुल था, वो बहुत अच्छी तरीके से मैकबेथ के अगेंस्ट फाइट कर रहा था, and in this way initially it appeared that he was being favored by fortune. मगर लास्ट में क्या हुआ? लास्ट में मैकबेथ के सामने मैकडोनाल्ड खड़ा ही नहीं हो पाया, एंड मैकबेथ disregarded MacDonald's initial success, and therefore fortune was merely like a rebel's whore. Who is the rebel? Rebel is MacDonald, and whore is unreliable. Understood? This is reason number 6. The bleeding surgeon says that Macbeth deserves to be called brave Macbeth because he proves his heroism and military skill by coming face to face with the rebel MacDonald. Very important. Heroism, military skill, coming face to face with MacDonald, splitting his body from the navel to the jaws and cutting off his head. Macbeth एक बहादुर योद्धा है, और इसीलिए जो ब्लीडिंग कैप्टन थे उन्होंने मैकबेथ को ब्रेव मैकबेथ कह के उन्होंने एड्रेस किया था, एंड ही ट्रूली डिजर्व्स टू बी एड्रेस्ड एज ब्रेव मैकबेथ बिकॉज ऑफ हिज हीरोइज्म एंड मिलिटरी स्किल. किंग डंकन कॉल्स मैकबेथ हिज वेलिएंट कजिन. दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड अ वर्दी जेंटलमैन बिकॉज डंकन एंड मैकबेथ वर फर्स्ट कजिन्स. और वो फर्स्ट कजिन्स क्यों थे? मदर्स ऑफ डंकन एंड मैकबेथ वर सिस्टर्स, वो बहनें थे, डॉटर्स ऑफ मैल्कम द सेकेंड. इसीलिए किंग डंकन ने मैकबेथ को वेलिएंट कजिन कह के उन्होंने पुकारा था. डंकन एंड मैकबेथ वर फर्स्ट कजिन्स. नंबर 1, फर्स्ट कजिन्स, एंड नंबर 2, मैकबेथ्स विक्ट्री ओवर मैकडोनाल्ड makes the king break out or burst into spontaneous admiration. He was very, very happy. King Duncan was happy because Macbeth had defeated MacDonald. Therefore, he calls Macbeth worthy gentleman and also valiant cousin. Valiant का मतलब क्या है? Valiant का मतलब है courageous. So this is the single reason. A fresh assault began against the Scottish troops because no sooner had Macbeth justly and bravely put to flight the light-armed Irish soldiers from the battlefield than the King of Norway seized this opportunity. Macbeth ने बहुत ही बहादुरी से लाइट आर्म्ड आयरिश सोल्जर्स को भगा दिया था बैटलफील्ड से. जो किंग ऑफ नॉर्वे थे उन्होंने इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को उन्होंने नहीं गवाया, और उन्होंने क्या किया था? एक फ्रेश असॉल्ट उन्होंने लॉन्च किया था अगेंस्ट द स्कॉटिश ट्रूप्स, एंड ही वाज सपोर्टेड बाय अ लार्ज बॉडी ऑफ ट्रूप्स इक्विप्ड विद पॉलिश्ड आर्म्स. आफ्टर दिस, नंबर 10, there is a reference to Golgotha because I have given 2 reasons. You can write any one of them. There is a reference to Golgotha because Macbeth and Banquo had killed the soldiers of the enemy so ruthlessly that it seemed they wanted to make the field of battle as that of Golgotha, the place of the skulls where Christ was crucified. W-H-E-R-E, where Christ was crucified. Or another reason, the bleeding surgeon wanted to reveal the ruthlessness. The word ruthless must be there in your reason. He wanted to reveal, highlight the ruthlessness with which Macbeth and Banquo killed the enemy soldiers. बहुत बहादुरी से मैकबेथ और बैंको ने जो enemy soldiers थे सबको मार भगाया, सबको मार डाला. As criminals were executed at Golgotha, the place where Christ was crucified, literally the place of skulls. So there are two reasons, you may write any one. The title of the Thane of Cawdor is a title of a traitor. Again, very important, because ironically, instance of dramatic irony. Dramatic irony. You must know this. Because ironically, King Duncan replaces one traitor, Thane of Cawdor, with a much worse traitor, Macbeth, who will commit regicide. और regicide क्या है? Regicide is the act of murdering the king. So here, King Duncan replaces Thane of Cawdor. Thane of Cawdor एक दगाबाज था. उन्होंने विश्वासघात किया था King Duncan के साथ, and therefore King Duncan replaces him. But he replaces one traitor with a much worse traitor. यहाँ पे Macbeth एक traitor है. हम देखेंगे in the course of the play, he will prove himself to be a much worse traitor than Thane of Cawdor. Why? Because he will commit regicide. He will kill the king, and this is not acceptable at all. The sergeant cannot say any more because he is bleeding profusely, and his gaping wounds must be immediately attended to by a doctor. The expression "in the eyes of the Thane of Ross" suggests a sense of urgency. Thane of Ross को देख के ये लग रहा था वो बहुत urgency में थे, उन्हें बहुत एक urgent काम था. Because he comes from Fife to inform King Duncan how the King of Norway launched a fearful attack against the Scottish troops. Number 1. With the support of the traitor the Thane of Cawdor. Number 2. And how Macbeth defeated them. And therefore there was a sense of urgency in his eyes, in the eyes of the Thane of Cawdor. Thane of Ross. Thane of Ross को जल्दी जल्दी King Duncan को ये सारी चीजें बतानी थी. इसीलिए there was such a sense of urgency in his eyes. Sweno, the King of Norway, begs for a peace treaty because he has lost the battle and Macbeth has emerged victorious. And therefore, अब Sweno, the King of Norway, क्या चाहते हैं? वो एक agreement में आना चाहते हैं. And therefore, he begs for a peace treaty, a peace agreement, a truce. Next, Duncan says, what he hath lost, noble Macbeth hath won because. Who is he? He is Thane of Cawdor. Because he is unhappy with the Thane of Cawdor. Duncan is not happy with the Thane of Cawdor for his treachery. वो एक दगाबाज है और इसीलिए किंग डंकन हैप्पी नहीं थे थेन ऑफ कॉडर से. एंड देयरफॉर द थेनशिप आयरॉनिकली इज कन्फर्ड का मतलब क्या है? गिवन, conferred upon Macbeth as a reward. So thaneship, Thane of Cawdor, the title is a reward for Macbeth's bravery, heroism and loyalty. So here is the irony. Is Macbeth loyal to King Duncan? No, we will see in the play that he is not loyal. So this is again an example of dramatic irony. King Duncan does not know that Macbeth is going to betray his trust, break his trust. Here we find a glorification of Macbeth. Duncan's words mean a glorification of Macbeth, though it is an instance of dramatic irony. So I have just explained the reason here. You may use these terms as well, dramatic irony, glorification of Macbeth, no problem at all. So here is the end of today's session. Dear students, I hope that you have understood how to write give reasons from Macbeth Act 1 Scene 2.